Hello, it's Saturday the 20th of May and this is your Birmingham News Weekend Magazine. Because it's the weekend, I'm here with you for the next hour to take a look at what's going on around Birmingham, the West Midlands and beyond. Yes, welcome to the Birmingham News Weekend Magazine. So coming up on today's show, we'll be seeing what's up on this week's community notice board. Carl Jones will bring us his weekend business update and we'll remind ourselves what's been going on around our area too. Later on in the show, Carl will be here with the film charts. Our intrepid reporters Steve Green and Jason Forrest will join us with some more interesting guests. Norma Barton will tell us what's so special about this month. Johnny Doon will share his pick of the gigs and Des and Gary will tell us what else is on around our area. So it's all within the pages of this week's Weekend Magazine. So then, time for the community notice board, and this is the news that you send to us. Remember, if there's something we could mention, then do get in touch, but please give us plenty of notice. And we'll give you those all-important details in a few minutes' time. Now, Dean Barnshaw has been in touch with us to tell us about an initiative called Shared Lives. Now, it's sometimes described as a bit like foster care for adults with disabilities, that's how he phrases it. But of course, it's much more than that. Now, currently, there are 13,500 people being supported by about 8,500 people across the UK. The government and the NHS want to double this service over the coming years. And not only is it more cost effective than residential or hospital care, but of course it also provides better outcomes for people when living back in their own communities with a shared lives family. Now, there are a number of schemes across the West Midlands. Dudley Council are working in partnership with the local charity CVT, which is the Camp Hill Village Trust, to expand their scheme. And they're currently looking for new carers. So if you'd like to find out more about any of that, then you can have a look at the Camp Hill Village Trust website, which is www.cvt.org.uk/shared lives or www.sharedlivesplus.org.uk. Now, beware of the T-Rex when it goes on the rampage in Bilston. For a fun, family-friendly day as Bilston Gallery is celebrating dinosaurs on Saturday the 27th of May. Now, young visitors can meet a lifelike T-Rex, dress up and have their faces painted just like a dinosaur, and find out lots of fascinating dinosaur facts with the amazing Dr. Fossil. Yeah, it's been organised to celebrate the gallery's Discover Dinosaurs exhibition, featuring Beaky, Tiny and Barry, the pet names for the huge dinosaur models on show. Now, amongst the exhibits in the show is Stan, a model of a T-Rex skull measuring almost 2 metres long. Joining Stan is Tiny, a not so small animatronic baby T-Rex which hunts for herbivore creatures as it would have done when creatures like it walked on the earth millions of years ago. Now, Barry the Baryonyx, gives visitors the chance to learn about one of the largest fish-eating dinosaurs. Its crocodile-like head and dangerous claws make it a master hunter of rivers and lakes around 125 million years ago, so you're not going to find it in your local lake these days. Flying above the gallery space is the 2 metre long head of Beaky, a pterosaur, or pterosaur, it's a silent P, which was neither a bird or a bat, but a reptile which soared above the land more than 200 million years ago. Fast forward to the Ice Age and you can meet Fluffy, a full-size mammoth which towers above the other models. So the Discover Dinosaurs exhibition is free and it runs until August the 13th at Bilston Gallery in Mount Pleasant, and the family day is on May the 27th. We like that. Now, a friend of mine, Frank Aston, has been in touch to tell us that the 4th annual St Mary's Beer Festival will soon be underway at St Mary Magdalene Church, Vicarage Fields in Albrighton, with proceeds going towards the restoration of the chancel east window. Now, these pictures illustrate monumental and ecclesiastical stonemason Mark Walker, engaged in artisan work to remedy the weather ravages of 8 centuries. Friday and Saturday, May the 26th and 27th, will see part of the unlikely venue transformed into a lofty, convivial pub where fine ale enthusiasts from far and wide will gather with church and village regulars to quaff a carefully chosen selection of refreshing beers. You can tell I haven't written this. Cheese and pork rolls, oh, I like the sound of that. Cheese and pork rolls will be available and music will be provided by local talent on the Friday evening and popular local cover band Dirty Rockin' Scoundrels on the Saturday. Now, it's all the brainchild of the vicar, Mary Wade, as well as the organists David Smith and Gerald Leach. And the festival has previously seen hundreds converge on the church for a springtime gathering to celebrate the mutual enjoyment of quality ales and good conversation. They make it sound so nice, don't they, if you like that sort of thing. Now, music historian and author Gerald Leach's knowledge of British composers is only equalled by his comprehension of quality beers and his selection of ales on offer, and this has been a labour of love. So that's all happening at St Mary Magdalene Church, Vicarage Fields or Brighton on the 26th and 27th of May. Now, the artists recruited for City of Wolverhampton's Wolves in Wolves public art project have been revealed. Now, Wolves in Wolves is being organised in partnership with Outside Centre and Enjoy Wolverhampton. You probably saw it right here on the Weekend magazine a few weeks ago. Now, it'll see 30 sculptures of wolves placed around the city, creating the largest public art event in Wolverhampton. Now, designers are being partnered with sponsors to create artwork to decorate the wolves. The pupils at Morton School in Old Fallings Lane have been working on designs for the mayoral wolf, and the students are also decorating the clinical commissioning group wolf, while Head of Art Jodie Williams will be decorating one for You Recruit. Now, Wolves in Wolves will combine a quality artistic and cultural event with associated public health, educational and economic benefits, and once the event is finished, the majority of the sculptures will be auctioned off to raise money for local charities. And you can find regular updates on Wolves in Wolves at www.wolvesinwolves.co.uk, and I've never said the word wolves so many times. But there we go, that's what we found pinned to this week's community notice board. And of course, if you know about something that we could be telling people about, why don't you get in touch? But please do give us at least a week's notice. You can talk to us in a number of ways. You can email news@madeinbirmingham.tv, or on social media, look us up, send us a message at madeinbhamtv, or just use the hashtag Birmingham News. And of course, we'll have more for you at the same time next week.
Thanks very much, Lee. Well, time to take a look at some of the big talking points around the West Midlands economy now with our business update. And a new report claims a debilitating lack of technical skills is holding back the West Midlands economy. The report found that manufacturers across the region are struggling to fill as many as 11,800 technical roles, with nearly half of them in the Black Country. The research comes from the Centre for Progressive Capitalism, and it estimates that 5,400 of the vacancies are in the Black Country, with the rest across Birmingham and Coventry. And the think tank has warned newly elected Midlands Metro Mayor Andy Street that he must make technical skills what they say as his #1 priority. But there's still plenty of good news to shout about in our region. Businesses can now apply for the Black Country Chamber of Commerce Awards 2017, celebrating some of the great work that is being done throughout the Black Country region. There are 12 awards categories up for grabs this year, and an opportunity for the winners to progress onto the national awards stage too. Now, there's a definite art to writing the perfect awards submission. But don't worry, an awards writing workshop's being held in the run-up to the deadline. It's happening on the 8th of June, and it'll be led by Peter Starr of Chili Pepper Development. You can check out the Black Country Chamber website for more details on that one. Now, continuing the awards theme, the finalists have just been revealed for the 2017 Shropshire Business Awards to be held at Telford's International Centre next month. Competing for the Showpiece Company of the Year Award are driver education group TTC, waste management company Reconomy, temperature controlled transport business Dale Brothers, and haulage group Kalina Logistics, based in Market Drayton. The founder of Poundland, Stephen Smith, is the guest speaker at that awards night. Now, what do the Jaguar Land Rover engine factory and the Remembrance Centre at the National Memorial Arboretum have in common? Well, not too much, you might think, but they're actually among 6 buildings to win West Midlands Awards from the Royal Institute of British Architects. The JLR plant also picked up a special sustainability award for its positive environmental impact, while the Remembrance Centre was declared the overall building of the year. Other award winners in our region included the University of Birmingham's Alan Walters building and the renovation of a former jewellery quarter factory into what's now the compound. West Midlands winners will go through to the new national finals in June. Now then, is this a business investment opportunity or is it a threat to local history and heritage? St John's United Reformed Church in Stourbridge, which held its final service in January, is now on the market and is being eyed up by potential developers. We caught up with one of the campaign groups trying to save it.
We worked out of St John's Church for about 6 years. So when the whole thing got shut down and the congregation dwindled and we lost the local reverend, it just didn't feel right when it came up for sale that it could potentially be used for any kind of commercial or even residential purposes. It means so much that it remains a community hub where the food bank can return, brownies and guides can return, and several more different community elements can maybe work from there.
Well, that's about it for our business news roundup this week. Don't forget, if you like more, then Birmingham Business, the last in the current series, is on Monday night at 10 o'clock, and we're preparing the ground for an all-new 1-hour show which will be debuting later this month. If you've got a business story for me, send me an email, carl.jones@madeinbirmingham.tv.
So then, time for a quick break now. Carl will be back later on in the show to take a look at this week's new films as well as the film chart. Plus, we'll be hearing from our intrepid reporter Steve Green. And as ever, we'll be catching up with what's been happening in our area during the past week or so. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show with me, Lee Bannister. Time now for a look back at some of the stories we've been covering here on Birmingham News. Now, as we get older, exercise and socialising are no less important to our physical and mental health. Back in December, funding cuts forced the Age UK Springfield Activity Centre to close. It was then that Sandy Jones decided to launch her own service called Bounce Back to Health and Happiness. Well, Olivia Marks went to see just how important the service is.
Dancing shoes on and time to bust a few moves. But not everyone was moving and shaking back in December after the Age UK Springboard Activity Centre was forced to close due to funding cuts.
We lost all our funding, including council funding and big lottery funding, which left quite a lot of clients with nowhere to go. We had people coming in tears.
Sandy decided to launch Bounce Back to Health and Happiness, a Black country-based service aimed at bringing together people over 50 through exercise and activities.
I just thought to myself, well, something has to be done to keep going. It's just a new lease of life.
It's run by a dozen volunteers, and since opening, it's brought back a lot of happiness for those who use the Springboard Activity Centre.
It's the exercise, the company. We have a very good laugh.
I had a brain tumour and it does my leg good, the exercise and the company as well. It's lovely.
Bounce Back to Health and Happiness is more than just a service. It plays a key part in tackling loneliness, an issue which affects 1.2 million older people in the UK.
Quite a few of the people that do come to Bounce Back, maybe we're the only people they would see during that week. No one else to talk to. So some of them do have a really lonely life and isolated life. So it's not just the health and well-being side of it, but it is the social side as well, which is very, very important to them.
With over 200 people taking part in these exercise classes, day trips and activities throughout the week, they're proving to be popular, showing that the fun doesn't stop once you reach over 50. Olivia Marks, Birmingham News.
Well, now recently we ran a series of reports to mark Mental Health Awareness Week. One of our reports focused on young men who make up the most at-risk groups of society. Nick D explored this issue when he met a man whose dreams were shattered, leading him into a spiral of despair.
A recent YouGov poll revealed that close to 1 in 4 young men had turned to self-harm as a result of anxiety or depression. The largest cause of death for males under 35 in the UK is suicide. There is continued perceived stigma regarding depression, preventing young people from getting help and so leaving many to suffer alone. Renee Williams had a successful sport career, however, after a major injury, fell into a state of depression.
I bought a new pair of boots, just like you do. I wanted to wear them in, and when I did that, I went down with my knee, so no one was on me. I was just messing around with a few friends and my knee went, so I ruptured my patella tendon and I was out. I had no motivation to get out of bed. I just really I think the honest thing I could say is I couldn't care about anything. One thing I did do was I documented my whole recovery with my knee. So when I started to put the videos out there on Facebook and Instagram, I started to realise there's quite a few people physically going through the same type of injury or same type of time frame with the injury as myself. Once I was walking, or should I say stumbling, after my knee was back, I needed to do something. You know, I couldn't lay in my bed anymore. I was definitely past that hurdle, so I was just desperate for work. When I signed up for the agency, they said, okay, it's called a PRU, a behaviour centre. You know, you're gonna have some challenging kids, but if you could just go in there and just talk to them, maybe you could motivate them or, you know, make an impact in their life in a positive way. Mental health does not mean you're a weak person, you're a weak character. It's got nothing to do with that. Just like when you cut your arm, what do? You put a Band-Aid on there, you put a plaster on there until it's healed, then you take it off. Same thing with mental health. So I think it's something that no one should be ashamed with, you know. I feel no way to say, look, there was something wrong with me. I was lucky enough not to have any medication, but me doing this, me making these videos, these interviews, I'm hoping there's other people out there who are going through the same thing, who are quiet, but now they're like, okay, that's a strong figure, he's speaking, maybe it's time for me to step forward and do something about it.
Many young males fail to seek help, but depression affects many people. And the message is, you don't need to suffer on your own. You can talk to your GP, who will be understanding, and there is help available. This is Nick D for Birmingham News.
Well, now also recently it was Celiac Awareness Week, which raises awareness about the disease and encourages people to get tested. A roadshow was in Sutton Coldfield with 2 nurses on site to test people for the condition. We spoke to a dietitian at the event.
Celiac disease is an autoimmune condition, so it's actually a condition where the body sort of fights itself, and the reaction is to gluten, which is found in wheat, barley and rye. And what happens is that in the small intestine, where the nutrients are absorbed, the gluten actually damages that part of the intestine. So they might find they get bloated, they might find that they feel a bit nauseous, but also they might get things like more mouth ulcers, headaches, joint pains, general lethargy, just feeling tired all the time. So we know it affects 1% of the population, but only a quarter of that 1% are actually diagnosed. And so for people who aren't treated, it can affect their quality of life. They can be anemic, they can have lots of stomach problems, and it can longer term affect things like your bones. And also for some people it slightly increases things like lymphoma, which is a cancer of the small bowel. Only a treatment for celiac disease at the moment is a strict gluten-free diet. And it's really important that people that do follow that strictly to prevent long-term problems.
Well now, as you'll know from watching this show, the Midlands is a hotbed of musical and film-making talent. Our reporter Steve Green met up with the organiser of a competition orchestrated to bring both sides together in creative harmony.
Carl, last time we spoke was on This Week with Carl Jones, when we were talking about your own film-making projects. At the moment, however, you're working on a competition which will involve other filmmakers and also musicians in the area. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the competition is called 2 Weeks to Make It Midlands. The Midlands is because 2 Weeks to Make It is a competition that runs almost annually in South Yorkshire, which I used to live in Sheffield and entered way back in 2006, but with a winning entry. And I enjoyed the competition so much when I moved down here, I brought the format with me. And it was run for a few years, till about 2013. It's been a bit of a break, so the Producers Forum have decided we want to resurrect the format and get the film and music communities together. And
that's been launched again this month?
Yeah, absolutely. So the competition is taking place in June. So the concept, 2 Weeks to Make It, is you pair teams of filmmakers with musical acts, and they basically have 2 weeks to make a music video from scratch. The competition kicks off with a launch event, which will be happening on the 2nd of June at the MAC in Birmingham. And that launch event is going to comprise of a roundtable discussion by some industry experts with experience in doing music videos, but also on the music side of the business. That's going to be a piece of very exciting news.
So there will be some tuition going on, as it were, some insight.
Yeah, there'll be some insight given, and there'll be a sort of discussion around how you approach making those films within 2 weeks. The panel that we're trying to get together will be a mixture of people with music background, music video experience, and music video directors. The panel is going to be chaired very excitingly by Janice Long, the BBC radio DJ, who has agreed to come down. That's an exclusive, by the way. We haven't even announced that yet. So, but basically, Janice is going to be chairing that panel and also the draw for the teams. At that point, basically, it's all go. They've got 2 weeks, and they just have to get out there and get planning, get shooting, and produce a HD video in 2 weeks.
Now, rather shockingly for the Midlands, you're not getting much interest at the moment from local rock or heavy metal groups.
Yeah, that's a really big surprise. I think when I ran the competition last in 2010, it was primarily indie rock, metal bands, and this time round it's such a diverse mix, which in a way I think is very reflective of Birmingham. We've got everything from folk artists to grime to hip hop and electronica. So it's a really good mix of bands that have submitted so far. I think it'd be good to get a few on the rock side as well.
Well, I've got until Monday 22nd to get their application forms into yourselves before the actual draw.
That's right, yeah. So registration is open till the 22nd. We'll be announcing who is in the competition by the 29th. And then, as I say, the launch event is at the MAC on the 2nd in the evening.
And we will be keeping in touch on that one.
That would be great if you can keep in touch. And during the competition, we're hoping to have some teams going out and getting some behind-the-scenes stuff. We'll be encouraging the filmmakers to capture some behind-the-scenes stuff, so hopefully we can share some of that with you. And,
great. Well, Carl, great to meet you again.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Steve.
Take care.
And full details of the competition and the prizes on offer are available at the website. But don't forget, you have to get your application in by Monday. Next time, Steve will be striking a comic note when he and local Laurel and Hardy enthusiast John Uller discuss the duo's Birmingham appearances. Love Laurel and Hardy. But first, it's time to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be hearing from Carl Jones, who's returning with his weekend look at the silver screen. So I'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back to the programme with me, Lee Bannister. Carl Jones will be back again shortly for his regular weekend look at the silver screen. But first, and for the final time for now, it's time for a quick pick of the gigs. Here's Johnny Doom.
Right, it's me, Johnny Doom from Amped on Made in Birmingham TV, or is it? Anyway, here's my pick of the gigs. Monster Magnet, 21st of May, O2 Academy. Slam Dunk Festival, that's got Enter Shikari and many, many more. That's 27th of May at the Genting Arena. And Electronic Legends Kraftwerk, they're playing the Symphony Hall. That is on the 13th of June. So yeah, that's my roundup of the gigs. Go out and see something.
And thanks, Johnny. Don't forget, Des and Gary will be keeping you up to date with the gigs in the area and a whole lot more too. So why don't we join them now for a look at what else is going on around our area.
Hello and welcome to the What's On Quickie with Des and...
Me?
Look at the colour of him.
Quickie.
Where have you been?
Yes, I got...
You've been on them sunbeds again.
I got locked in a curry house.
Oh.
It's all coming out now. at least it's coming out the top end. You wouldn't like it if it was anywhere else, I tell you.
Right, come on, it's Quickie, so let's get on with it.
Okay.
This coming Monday at the Rep, critically acclaimed, I'll say that again, critically acclaimed bar-based Braveheart Al Murray, the pub landlord, embarks on a brand new common sense crusade to re-great Britain.
That's
like that,
brilliant.
re-great Britain.
Great character, that.
Yeah, it's his new show called Let's Go Backward Together, and this is the man who will answer the call of destiny even though it's ex-directory.
That's great. That's be worth going to see. Starting on Tuesday and running until Saturday, The Wedding Singer is at the new Alex Theatre. That takes us back, remember it, 1985?
I do.
OK, that was the date in the Back to the Future car in the DeLorean. That's when it all started, 1985. When hair was big, I did have some then. I did have big hair. Greed was good. And rock star wannabe Robbie Hart is New Jersey's favourite wedding singer. Stars Ray Quinn, remember him?
You do, yeah.
From whatever talent
Dancing
show
on
it
Ice
was. And all that sort of stuff. And Heidi High's Ruth Maddock.
Heidi Ho.
Oh, Heidi High. Hello, campers.
Hi.
She's a lovely lady. It's a musical that promises to get you up dancing on your feet, look like in a dad at a wedding.
Dad dancing. OK.
I'm glad you did that and not me.
Right then, burn your history books. On Wednesday, as part of the Old Joint Stock Comedy Festival, you've got to read this, How Eva von Schnippisch won World War II tells the action-packed story of how Germany's greatest underground cabaret star is transformed into Britain's #1 spy. With love, betrayal and Frankfurters, she debunks the bunker story once and for all.
She what?
Debunks the bunker.
With the Frankfurter.
Yeah. Yes. All in a night of hilarious anti-fascist feminist propaganda. Good on you, Old Joint Stock.
There we go.
Love it.
You don't want to be going through that one again. Right here at the Glee Club in Her Street in Birmingham, of course. Comedy Carousel is presented by compere Andy Robinson. Now, it's fast-paced, it's spontaneous, it's topical. It features top stand-up comedians with their take on the week's news. That's always good stuff. And a big screen to bring you the best bits from the weird and wonderful world of the web.
Fantastic.
That sounds good.
Yeah, always
Great.
a good night at the Glee.
Great club, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm normally when I'm here, though, there's more than just a camera.
I know, yeah. Now then, the lineup for the Solihull Summerfest has just been finalised. Happening over the late August bank holiday weekend, the headline act on Saturday the 26th is Peter Andre.
Mysterious girl.
Yes, with Lulu, Gabrielle, Lamar and local cult reggae stars Musical Youth. Dennis.
Lulu's going to be there.
Lulu's going to be there.
I think I might be there then. I like an older woman.
Plus on the Sunday, a more local flavour with the Wonder Stuff. They're from Wolverhampton, aren't they?
The Wonder Stuff, yeah.
Andy Bennett from Ocean Colour Scene, The Wedding Crashers and many more. So that's a really good weekend.
Wonder Stuff, size of a cow.
Yeah.
I'm not saying any more.
No.
Hello, Mrs. GJ. Right, and staying with festivals, the route for the Pride Festival.
Right.
That takes place bank holiday weekend, which is almost upon us.
Yeah.
So the route has been announced, boys and girls. And those that aren't sure. Starting at Victoria Square, going down New Street, High Street, round the back of M&S, right to the back of Rackham's. They've gone down Market, have they, round the back of M&S. Onto Moore Street, past the Rotunda, and then left down Her Street, where it ends. Some of the main acts this year include Dua Lipa, Basement Jaxx, Sophie Ellis-Bextor, and, of course, the brilliant, the wonderful, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, born in Handsworth, Jamelia.
Woohoo! Yeah, it's a great weekend, that is. Now then, gig of the week. This is the end one. And where's my bell? Here we go. Local duo making waves.
You're in Her Street and you don't know where your bell is. I'll tell you.
Oh, right, yes. Local duo making great waves. The Fidgets are at the Blue Piano. Gig of the week. Thank you. Over to you.
Thanks, chaps, and they'll be back here around the same time next week. Plus, you can catch up with what's going on during the rest of the week on Thursday's edition of The Lowdown. Well, now it's time for some movie news, and fresh from his film slot in the Lowdown, it's back to Carl Jones.
Thanks very much, Lee. Welcome to the IMAX Cinema Cineworld here in Telford for a dose of movie news this week. I want to talk to you today about one of the big releases this weekend at our cinemas, and also one that's got a local connection which opens in a few days' time. Starting with this weekend's new release, and this is King Arthur Legend of the Sword. This is director Guy Ritchie's take on the Legend of Camelot, and it talks about the story building up to the time when King Arthur took to the throne and appointed his Knights of the Round Table. Jude Law is the pantomime baddie uncle that Arthur is trying to unseat when he discovers that he really is the rightful heir to the throne and the man who can take the sword Excalibur out of the magic stone. Take a look at the trailer.
Hail King Vortigern!
Why is the water dropped? There are rumors. The legend of the sword. of a king other than yourself. Find him. I know your story. What kind of a man would you become had you inherited your father's kingdom instead of being raised in a brothel?
You're playing with fire.
But doesn't it make the palace burn well?
There's the king.
Now, I've got to be honest, I thought this was a bit of a mishmash of mediocrity. David Beckham, would you believe, has a cameo role in this, and let's just say he should stick to football, playing one of the Centurion guards. He's not got the most macho voice in the world for the role, but it was a bit of a mixture of styles. There's bits of Braveheart, there's bits of Gladiator, there's bits of Robin Hood, and then it all morphs into a sort of B-list superhero adventure at the end. So I have to say, not as good as Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes, this for me. So it's a very mediocre 4 out of 10, I'm afraid, for that one. Let me talk, though, about a film that's got a local connection coming to our cinemas very soon. This is called Interlude in Prague, and it's been co-produced and co-screenwritten by a lady from Telford, here in Telford, called Helen Cromarty. It's the story of music, murder and Mozart in the late 1700s, starring a cast including James Purefoy, Samantha Barks and Adrian Edmondson. Take a look.
I hear you are writing a new opera here, Mozart.
Don Giovanni is based on the story of Don Juan.
Can I be of some help, perhaps?
I've discovered a beautiful young soprano, Susanna Luptak. You have the most beautiful smile.
I believe him to be a man without morals. He flirts with an innocent young woman in whom I have a professional interest.
Baron Celiac, so very handsome, wealthy too. Dare I dream of such a man, Susanna?
There are rumors. Ladies, some married.
Just don't be alone with him.
Finally, I have you all to myself.
There's little doubt that they are lovers. I can destroy him.
Don Giovanni is a wicked man. They're playing a dangerous game here, Maestro.
Haven't you blossomed?
I am afraid.
So there you go, Interlude in Prague. We'll be hitting our cinemas in the West Midlands on the 25th of May, and looks like it should be quite an interesting one, and we'll keep an eye on Helen and hopefully get her in the studio for a chat sometime soon. If neither of those float your boat, of course, still topping the box office charts at the moment is Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Fast and Furious 8 is still in there, and Beauty and the Beast still hanging on well there, despite the fact he's been around in our cinemas for more than 2 months now. So plenty of variety still on our cinema screens across the West Midlands. I'll be back with more movie news on The Lowdown every night next week, and if you've got a movie story you want to tell me about, send me an email to carl.jones@madeinbirmingham.tv.
Thanks, Carl, and of course he'll be back next week. Time for a break now. Don't go anywhere though, because we have an appointment with Jason in the Milk Bar, and of course Norman will be seeing what's so special about this week. I'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back to the final part of the programme with me, Lee Bannister. Let's pop to the Milk Bar now with Jason Forrest. Remember, the Milk Bar is a place where local performers can drop in and tell Jason all about what they're up to. Now, La Cage aux Folles is the play that Robin Williams' The Birdcage was based on, and the sumptuous musical is coming to the Wolverhampton Grand in June. So Jason Forrest caught up with two of the stars of the show, Adrian Zmed and Marty Webb.
La Cage aux Folles is Wolverhampton's Grand Theatre from the 27th of June through to the 1st of July. And I have two of the stars of the show with me now, Marty Webb and Adrian Zmed. How are we doing? How's that good?
Beautifully pronounced, yes.
Well, good to meet up with you both. Thank you for joining us. And first of all, Adrian, tell us a little about your role in the show, because you are taking one of the leads.
I play George, who is the
owner of the Saint-Tropez nightclub that it's all about, which is called La Cage aux Folles. And George is kind of like he's running a three-ring circus between putting on the show with all of his dancers and everything, and his partner Alban, who is the star of the show, and then his son suddenly drops a bomb on the family and says, I'm getting married, and I'm getting married to the father of the girl is quite a conservative gentleman himself with a political party, and suddenly our entire world is thrown up in chaos. So I'm trying to keep the show going, I'm trying to keep my son happy, and we're trying to get him married. And then Marty, who is the owner of the best restaurant in all of France, is what I say in the show, Chez Jacqueline.
Chez Jacqueline.
And she is a dear friend of ours. We always send customers to each other. Pretty much, Marty saves the day. Jacqueline saves the day at the very end for us all. When everything looks like everything is completely fallen apart, we pull like a rabbit out of a hat, and there we go. Everybody lives happily ever after.
But it is a fun, feel-good show, and you get all of that with great music, great stars, and some great fun along the way.
I'm giving you the bare bones, concept of what the story is about and everything, but it doesn't even do justice to what the show is. It's a throwback to the days of the grand costumes and sets and choreography, but the story is marvelous. It's a story about a family. It's a story about a family that's dealing with a crisis right here, and everything goes wrong constantly from the first 5 minutes of the show. Everything is constantly going wrong. We're trying to get things going. So it's really a show that has so much heart, I cannot tell you. And then it's funny.
It is. It's very funny.
Yeah.
It's very funny, very witty, very witty, and people. It's lovely to hear people laugh too. It's really nice, and it's entertaining. Basically, that's what it is.
But I mean, based on a French play from the early part of the 70s, it's a story that has stood the test of time, and one that, in some ways, I mean, would be very forward-thinking compared to what we'd expect to see on stage maybe back then. They had just had the 60s and all that, and I know neither of you old enough to remember the 60s properly, but it's...
Fortunately, we do.
I do. I was working quite well then in the 60s.
You were. But I mean, it is a nice piece which has got all parts of humanity in it, and it tells a tale really well, I think, because of that.
I think it does, and the thing is, it's wonderful to look at. I mean, we have wonderful sets, beautiful costumes, and I have to say the Cargels are absolutely amazing. They're the dancers in it, and they're boys, but are they boys? They could be girls. Nobody ever knows. And the costumes are absolutely wonderful, and their dancing is brilliant, and the whole thing. And we don't have a fourth wall either, so the audience actually becomes our audience in La Cage aux Folles. It becomes my patrons in my restaurant. So the audience are very much part of the show all the time.
I think that's one of the magic of the shows, is that the second the show starts, I walk out and start talking to the audience and welcoming them to La Cage aux Folles. So immediately they are a part of the show from the beginning, to the end. Plus, there's some things in this show that people are a little surprised at, and as to how timely actually this show is and the themes that it touches. I mean, the theme song, "I Am What I Am." Obviously, in the early 80s, when Harvey and Jerome wrote it, it was what it was for that time. Today, it means even more with what's going on in this world and being who you are. And then the wonderful song that Marty sings, "Best of Times," is another magnificent song that is about living in the now and enjoying what you have now, not what was yesterday and not what is tomorrow. That is coming, in the future. So there are so many wonderful themes to this show, in addition to a wonderful storyline.
And obviously, you talk about the songs of the show. I mean, Marty, you're not exactly unused to having some of the show-stopping numbers, and by the sounds of things, you do get it.
That actually she's a legend?
Well, she is, isn't she?
Every time I say, "Is the legend in? Has she arrived?" I just want to know so that we can start now.
Okay, you're a legend yourself, though, with your work in TV. That you were part of my growing up in TJ Hooker, that sort of stuff. So you're a legend as well. So it is good to be sat here next to both of you. But if you get used to show-stopping numbers, you didn't that much musical theatre in the past. Is this something that which is that you're used to? Where can we delve?
That's how I started out my career on Broadway, doing the original Grease. Actually, on Broadway, I was Danny Zuko, and then after that, I actually went to Hollywood right after that and started doing a bunch of television and film. I actually did Grease 2 pretty close set right after I did my stint on Broadway with that. But then I returned to theater about 10 years later, and I've done 20 or 30 productions of Broadway's and national tour companies at this point. It's one of those things where my manager said, it's time for you to go to LA and Hollywood. Hollywood is calling you now.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay in New York because I was doing well.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, Hollywood's calling you now, but Broadway will always be there. And he was right, you know. I went back and here I am in the UK for the very first time, actually, and loving it.
And so who gets the best frocks in the show? I'm hoping you get some nice little outfits.
Well...
Wait, what's a frock?
Okay.
There we go again. Here we go.
Translate, what's a frock?
Subtitles
It's a
of that.
dress.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right. Right. A costume, maybe.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you get a few good numbers?
I get the costumes. Yes, I get costumes. I think the Cargels get the best costumes, and certainly John does as Alba. He gets all the glamour. You know, that's the thing. You get all the glamour in the nightclub. I'm a bit more staid. I'm not a performer.
The restaurant doesn't have that sort of stuff. But I assume Jacqueline still dresses up a little for her clients.
Yes, she does. She does dress up a bit, usually by Chanel. What can one say? You know.
And have you either of you had a chance to see this production? Have you had a night off or an afternoon off?
Are you kidding?
No, it hasn't happened. No. Okay.
Oh, you are a funny man. What a funny man.
Yeah.
I actually went and watched last night in the wings to watch the opening, which I hadn't seen since Oxford when we opened. I went and watched it from the front with the dress rehearsal, and it was lovely. It was absolutely fabulous. But of course, it's quite interesting watching it from the wings because you see quite a different perspective because everything's done for the front. You know, so it was lovely. I really enjoyed it. It was nice seeing some scenes that I hadn't seen for a long time because you hear everything on the tannoy, but you don't necessarily see it unless you're in it.
And it's not quite the same watching on maybe a little screen on preview backstage because you're mostly worrying about when you're on next when it's like that.
Exactly. And it was for us, wasn't it? In Oxford it was a bit nightmarish, our first venue, and everything getting used to it, and the wings and where to change and things like this.
From rehearsal to actually doing it, we only had a few days.
And there's so many quick changes. There are so many quick changes. I mean, some of them are 5 seconds. It's like, you know.
And then that's just you.
Yeah, really.
Yes. Yes, it's the wigs that worry him.
I can imagine it's a bit of a problem. But thank you both. Great talking to you. It sounds like it's a great show. Adrian Zeved and Marty Webb, thank you for that. Get along and see a brilliant show from the 27th of June through to the 1st of July when La Cage aux Folles arrives at Wolverhampton's Grand, and arrive in style, I'm sure it will.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, looking forward
to it. It will. Yes, it will.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Jason, and we'll have more from the Milk Bar at the same time next week. Remember, it's also on the radio and it's a podcast, so if you want to find out more, do have a look at www.themilkbarpodcast.com. Right, now let's take a quirky but interesting trip back in time with everyone's favourite historian. It's our very own Norma Barton.
This month in May 2006 was a sad time for football fans, as the last ever edition of the famously pink Saturday evening Sports Argus rolled off the production line. Since 1897, the Argus, once known as the paper of manly pastimes, had held a place in the hearts and minds of sports fans. Not only did it cover the Big Six football teams, but it had an unrivalled record of covering minor leagues and junior sports at all levels. In short, if it wasn't in the Argus, it hadn't happened. In the day, it was simply the way to find out how your football team had performed, and huge queues formed outside newsagents on Saturday evenings. You soon found out if your team's form rate had been outstanding, or as was often the case, dismal. The future of the Sports Argus became increasingly dismal as the local radio and then the internet increased the opportunity for people to follow their team instantly. The introduction of the Greed League led to our top teams playing on any day of the week except for Saturday, and interest in the Argus waned. The fact that the paper was no longer in local ownership maybe didn't help, and a decision to close it, probably on financial grounds, was made. A dismal end, but outstanding memories.
And if you'd like Norman to take a look at something in history, why don't you get in touch? You can email news@madeinbirmingham.tv. So then, it's time to close the pages of the Birmingham News Weekend Magazine for Saturday. Now, I'll be here at the same time tomorrow, and then there's more news for Birmingham and the West Midlands every weekday with Mike at 6 and 8 in the evenings. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you back here at the same time tomorrow. Try a bit.